Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. Now remember there were 4 categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
What I find most fascinating is a children's book. A children's book written by none other than a child, Ariana. With this book, she talks about her journey to healing, and she wants to reach children with a desperate cry. To me, that is so mind-blowing because, again, as children, we are impacted in ways that we sometimes haven't dreamt of, right? Whether it's, we were muzzled as children, whether we were not hugged, we were not loved, whatever those situations are, and we did not deal with them. And guess what happened? We grew up to adults and we bleed out on the people around us. So if we can address these things as children, OMG, can you imagine what a beautiful world that would be?
There's a commercial that used to say, "Don't leave home without it." I think it was MasterCard. And at the end they would say, you couldn't put a price on it. a price could not be put on what you and your wife did for us, did for me this week. And I'm just praying that your ministry will continue to be the blessing to others as it has been to me this week. Just the opening of the eyes, just seeing God's word with a whole different set of lenses, just understanding what is required of us, and laying aside the misnomers, the erroneous teachings, the errors, and just accepting who I am in Christ. And no one else could tell me who I am but the Word.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us all week long.
Thank you for being there with us.
Right.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Monday Nights with KW. I am, as always, Kamala, the K in your KW. Tonight, it's just me. Don't be too sad, guys. You will get the W back at another time. Tonight, we are going to be interviewing and talking with a really amazing individual by the name of Dr. Tamara Richards. If you're already on with us, you've been looking forward to this, because tonight we're going to be talking about a journey through healing, gratitude. Now, I know a lot of us know about gratitude, but I'm so excited to hear Dr. Richards' perspective on this. So as usual, as we jump in together tonight, I do want to kind of chat with us about a couple of different things. So first and foremost, those of you who've been with us for a while now, you already know that if you're here tonight, you have the opportunity to win a fabulous gift. Tonight, we are actually going to be giving away two, you heard me say it right, two of Dr. Richards' amazing books. She has got a series called Highest Praise, Chronicles of a Grateful Heart. So 3-part series. Parts 1 and 2 are available on Amazon right now. Part 3 is coming. But for 2 of you lucky people tonight, you will be able to win that just by doing what you do. Talk to us, comment, ask questions, share. We want to have you as a part of our conversation. And at the end of the night, you have the opportunity to win this amazing book. You are going to be sad if you don't comment tonight and you miss out on the possibility of this, because by the time we get through this conversation on gratitude, you're going to want to know more. So we are excited to really promote this awesome book, this awesome series of books that Dr. Richards has put together talking about a grateful heart. So guys, as usual, one of the things that brought us here tonight, of course, is, our ministry, KW Ministries. What's that about? It's about people recognizing, starting with my own family, starting with my own marriage, people recognizing that sometimes you go through really hard times, you really go through challenges. And really the way to be on that journey of healing is to share, be open to learning new things, be open to different experiences. And we can teach each other a lot from our journeys of healing, no matter what that healing journey has looked like, no matter where it started. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we've talked to so many different people about different areas of their life and how they have attained or are attaining healing. Last week, we had Adrian McCullum on. Amazing story about his journey through addiction, what that looked like, and how God has restored him. A couple of months ago, we talked to Stacey Edwards, a journey through cancer when it comes back, and talking through what a challenging process that is to go through an experience, feel like you have overcome, and have that experience revisit you, and just the realities. And we talked with her about her just resilience and being able to really submit yourself to the process, but not give up, continue to work on it. We've talked through people's journeys of grief, we've talked through people's journeys of divorce, and in each of our interactions, I feel like we have gained so much from each and every guest that we've talked to. Vulnerability, being able to recognize that we're not in this alone, because we're not. And so that's been a part of our journey here on KW Ministries. Other things that we've done on KW, if you've been with us a while, you already know what's coming. I'm going to point you to our website, because one of the ways that we've journeyed through our own healing process is through writing. If you go onto our website, www.kwministries.net, and I promise if you navigate away from the screen, you'll see us running over there too, so you're not missing anything. But one of the ways that we've journeyed or continue to journey through this healing process of ourselves is that we've written. And so there are a number of devotionals on our site. I'm going to show that on our screen right now, just the kind of the different things that you can access coming through our website. We've got 8 coping skills to heal. I promote that a little bit less, even though I probably should. I should be biased, but since I wrote it. But 8 coping skills to heal is a journey through what kind of skills do individuals need to navigate just living in this world. I've always said, it would be nice if we all had a wonderful little guidebook about how to deal with life, how to deal with stressors and challenges. But the truth is that we don't. So I'm hoping that this can be a bit of a guidebook for you. Other products on our website include our devotional series. And guys, oh my gosh, this is where we really started. This was where rubber met the road. And devotional 1, The Journey Begins, was really just us saying, you know what, God? Here we are at the start of something. We don't know what direction this is going to take, but we're going to try to trust you. And that journey of learning to trust God is what promoted, what inspired The Journey Begins. And we're hoping that as you're journeying along with us, as you've journeyed along with us, that one of the things that you'll do is grab something from this website, see what resonates with you. How can God help you through your healing process? Let's say you don't like printed stuff. Guess what? We've got digital books on the site as well, so you have nothing to miss. Maybe you're not into digital books, or maybe you're not into a printed copy of something. That's okay too. We've got KW merch, so go ahead and check out the website. I want to encourage you to do that, because what we want at the end of the day is for you to be equipped with all of the tools that you could possibly need to live a life of healing. So as we jump in tonight, like I told you in the beginning, we are featuring Dr. Tamara Richards. And she's written, like I said, these wonderful books, this series, really covering what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is gratitude. So I'm so excited to bring her on. I'm so excited to get the conversation started with her. We're going to start off with just us getting to know her, and then we'll go from there. You know how it goes, guys. So let's go ahead and take a break right here. And when we come back, we will have Dr. Richards in studio. Dr. Richards, welcome to Monday Nights with KW. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about talking with you tonight. I can't even lie. Now it's so funny. I'm thinking back to a couple of weeks back. We were kind of tag teaming in the chat, jokes back and forth about this entire program. But Tamara, I think it's so interesting that tonight we're going to be talking about gratitude. And I feel like anybody who has really honed in on gratitude as a way of healing is somebody who has a story about how they got to that place. So let's start really at the very beginning. If you could describe to us, myself, the people who are watching, the people who are going to be watching 10 months from now, if you could describe your earliest experiences, what would be the first thing that you would want for us to know about you?
Well, um, I grew up in, I would say, a large family, and I grew up in rural St. Elizabeth, a little town called Magotty,
Mm-hmm.
as the fifth of six children in the home. The last girl, as very, very, very introverted. If you didn't know better, you would think I was mute.
Wow.
So a silent and very observant, very internal
Mm-hmm.
person, very introspective, just
Mm-hmm.
always in my head, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do think, though undiagnosed, that I did have anxiety, feelings of anxiety from even an early age.
Mm-hmm.
No, my journey with gratitude, I don't think it began um, in an orthodox way.
Oh
It
boy.
began through an experience that I observed with my brother. And I'll share it with you. I still chuckle as I think
Yeah.
about it. So, of course, with six kids, we
Mm-hmm.
were not rich, and so my brother and I had little peculiarities about food. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't like when the dumpling was
Mm-hmm.
cooked with the banana,
Mm-hmm.
and then that dumpling had some black coloration.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, my mom, she would wash our dumplings.
Mm.
And this day, however, I don't know, busy, stressed, she didn't wash our dumplings. So we're sitting at the table, and my brother, my eldest brother, began to grumble.
Oh
I
boy.
was just about to grumble myself when I
Mm-hmm.
looked and saw my dumpling was black. How dare you put a black dumpling in my plate?
Mm-hmm.
But as I turned around, my brother started to utter his word. I just saw a hand snake across the table and connected. And the words were, give thanks,
Mm.
give thanks. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like,
Swallowed
thank you,
that.
Lord. I have a
Mm-hmm.
dumpling.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned, and because I'm introspective, I don't even remember how young I was, but very young enough in prep school.
Yeah.
And I began to think, okay, why would my that wasn't characteristic of my mother. So there
Mm-hmm.
must be a reason for her to have, you know, done
Yeah.
that and said that at that time. So I began to reflect and I began to be a little bit more thankful for
Mm.
everything, even the things that were inconvenient. And even in my books, I do call the things that are not the most pleasant
Mm-hmm.
inconvenient blessings. So that's where I
Mm.
learned that
Yeah.
lesson
Yeah.
about just stopping to think and to be grateful for everything that you had.
Yeah. So help me out here, Dr. Richards. So you said, this experience happened when you were still pretty young. Good evening, Roosevelt. I see you. Welcome to the conversation. So this happened when you were really young in prep school, but you thinking back on it right now, you're saying to yourself, man, I was really able to use that incident to really start to reflect on why gratitude is important. And you said you started to do some things. Like, what are some of the things that you found that you started to do kind of in response to this that told you that you were thinking about it differently, that you were responding to it differently?
So I was young, I was introverted, like I said,
Yeah.
and to escape those noisy siblings who I never quite fit in with, I would just be in a little corner scratching in my notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time there was a special event, I would make little cards and I would pen words of poetry. So if it
Mm-hmm.
was Father's Day, Daddy's getting a card, thank you, some rhyming words. Mother's Day, similarly. And and my my skills of writing were honed through that reflection of thankfulness and gratitude for every little thing. And I also think that there were times when we didn't have everything that we needed, and if we asked or if we had a spirit of complaint, the
Mm-hmm.
words of my mother, I can still hear them ringing, is satisfy. You must satisfy,
Yeah.
right? So it's this gratitude, this thankfulness for what you have, and this inner satisfaction with
Mm-hmm.
whatever is it that you have. You must be satisfied. And
Mm.
as I grew older, then and began to relate to God or accept God in my heart,
Mm-hmm.
this satisfaction that whatever I have is provided by God. It doesn't matter what others around me have. I'm not missing out on anything
Mm-hmm.
in life because I now have cultivate the spirit of satisfaction, and I have learned to be grateful. So not just
Mm.
grateful, but satisfied.
Yeah. So I'm gonna slow us down a little bit because you went from, here's what happened in childhood and this is how it got cultivated to an adult experience. But I'm really curious for an adolescent who is still going through this process and is learning how to be satisfied, learning how to be content, learning how to convey appreciation to somebody else for something that they've done, or for, just like you said, Father's Day cards, Mother's Day cards, just going through those processes. How did you, as a child, as an adolescent, how did you cultivate that to where when you became an adult, it now became a part of this kind of robust, ongoing experience that I feel like you're getting ready to tell us about?
I think I think Kamala that some of it is natural
Mm.
and is in tune with my personality as a
Mm-hmm.
naturally introspective person. So you didn't have to sometimes though, like I told you, if you didn't know better, you'd think that I'm a mute child. So
Mm-hmm.
I could be in the room with the adults and they forget that
Mm-hmm.
I'm in there. So I
Mm-hmm.
know so much more than my siblings just by sitting in the room with the adults who I'm not talking, they forget me and they say all sorts of things. So I know when things are hard. I know when the school
Mm-hmm.
fees are not ready because there are six of us. We're going to prep
Mm-hmm.
school. That's not
Mm-hmm.
easy. But I was never always thankful, right? I didn't
Yeah.
like when I had to get letters, those little circulars they call it, to take home because
Mm-hmm.
you're owing on the fees. I didn't like that, and I would grumble, and the pride, I say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I would feel inferior at times to the other kids who would be when every time you come back to school there is a composition. Tell us about your summer break, and they're telling us
Mm-hmm.
about their trips abroad and the creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would have lots of stories, lots of
Mm-hmm.
imaginative stories,
Mm-hmm.
that I would write from my
About
composition,
what's
right?
happened.
Never,
Yeah.
never to be left out. So
Yeah.
there's that. The question was, how did I cultivate that as an
Yeah.
adolescent? I had
Mm-hmm.
a strong influence in my grandmother.
Mm.
That's my mother's mother. So
Yeah.
I am what you would call a fourth generation Seventh day Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with the word, just, and even though at points in my life my parents weren't attending church, my father still isn't a Seventh day Adventist, my mother is. i
Mm-hmm.
would i would take the gems from my grandmother. And I remember once I don't know what I was upset about, but I
Mm-hmm.
was at the house, grandma's house, it must have been a
Mm-hmm.
Sabbath, and I was crying. And she told me, Tammy, as a child of God, you can't cry so much. You cry too much as a child of God. And I was like, what is grandma saying, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to cry. And she quoted to me, and I'll never forget, Psalm 119, verse 165. And it's throughout these books.
Mm-hmm.
Great peace have they who love thy law, and nothing shall offend them.
Mm.
I didn't quite know what it meant then, but it
Mm-hmm.
stuck with me throughout the years. You cry too much, you cry too much. So rather than crying and crying and crying, I'd find a reason to
Mm-hmm.
be grateful, looking for the positives in the
Mm-hmm.
situation. And
Mm-hmm.
so those were ways in which I cultivated what I would call a spirit of thankfulness. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily natural, it was honed through different
Mm-hmm.
experiences in life.
Yeah. I like your use of the word honed because what I'm hearing from you so far is not only did you have to become intentional about looking for things to be grateful for in situations where you didn't necessarily want to feel grateful, you also had the experience of people around you, grandma in particular, who were able to kind of infuse your life with these reminders of gratefulness. So, in talking to somebody right now who maybe they're focused a lot on the challenges that they're experiencing in life, what would you say to them about how honing an experience or honing a spirit of gratitude can be helpful to them in their process of dealing with challenges?
I would say that gratitude is a state of mind. It is
Mm,
a spirit that needs to be cultivated.
mm-hmm,
So, when challenges come our way, we are automatically we're seeing the negatives,
mm-hmm,
right? So, as we go through challenges, it is important for us to think about the positive in the situation. And I like to say, challenges are there to build us and strengthen us. And if you're still standing, it
mm-hmm,
could be worse. So the fact that
mm,
you are not, yes, you might be beaten up and broken down, but
mm-hmm.
you're still alive. And
Yeah.
where there's life, there's hope and there's a way. And if you look outside, right?
Mm-hmm,
Remove yourself from, that focus on self. Gratitude allows us to focus on the giver of grace.
mm-hmm,
So if we are removing our focus from ourselves and from the situation that we're in, and we're
mm-hmm,
focusing on God,
mm-hmm,
then we are able to see the blessings in the situation. We're able to see His leading. We're able
mm-hmm,
to see the light of the end of the tunnel. We might not know what's going to come, but we can see His leading. And I like to say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
mm-hmm,
1,050. Start with one and count your blessings. Count your
mm,
blessings.
Yeah.
That gives you so much perspective.
Mm-hmm. When you really allow yourself to stop and focus and really go, you know what? There are things here that I can be positive about. Now, I know in dealing with people, I can almost hear the questions reverberating in my head. Somebody out there is going, well, this sounds all well and good, but what kind of challenges have you ever been through that really rocked your world where you saw yourself doing this or you were able to do this?
Ah, there are too numerous to tell,
Mm, mm-hmm,
right? From the classic heartbreak,
mm-hmm,
not being chosen by somebody
mm-hmm.
in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like that's a that's a big one where, it's like, well, God, thank you. There must be something that you're saving me from.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You know what's best for me. You know where the future lies. You know what I need. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
thank you for this heartbreak that I'm going through, because it will help me to be able to comfort somebody else who,
Mm-hmm.
no doubt, will go through similar heartbreaks in life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really, I want to say a good one, but that's not the word that I want because it's both bad and good. Because good in the sense that I think a lot of people can relate to that. Because being able to connect to somebody or to have that special connection with somebody is something that a lot of people, if not everyone, looks for in life. And when we don't experience that or we get rejected, like you said, that can be a really challenging experience. And for some people, we can really have this sense of who am I if I can't if I can't be loved by someone else. Now, when you say that, gosh, you're able to you were able to talk yourself through that and be able to recognize, God, you might be leading me in a different direction than the direction that I thought this was going in. And I'm grateful to you for the experience. As you're going through kind of the day to day of that, when you first have that initial experience of I'm being rejected. How do you remind yourself in that moment, in those initial moments when the pain is the hardest to be grateful?
It takes practice.
Mm,
So don't get me wrong.
mm-hmm,
You do go through the period of darkness, questioning yourself,
mm-hmm,
losing your confidence, thinking, what is it? Something must be wrong with me. And remember, now I've already stated that I'm very introverted. And
mm-hmm.
therefore, that internalizing habit
Yeah.
is very common.
Mm-hmm,
So then you think of yourself as lacking something. Maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that, maybe I'm not this, maybe I'm not that. So then it's casting yourself at the feet of Jesus. That is how I have been able to cope with life's challenges. I literally throw myself at the
mm-hmm,
feet of Jesus. When the burdens get too hard to bear and I can't cry anymore, then I prostrate myself and I
mm-hmm,
said, God, take it. And in its place, give me a spirit of gratitude. Help me to see your way and not my way. I
mm-hmm,
have written with nail polish on my mirrors
mm-hmm,
the promises of God. So if you're
mm-hmm,
questioning that, is it my looks? I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and that my soul knows right well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I've Go ahead.
It is it is because of your grace and your mercy that I am standing today. As a child of God, I am a princess. I am royalty. And therefore, if this has been allowed to happen, then I will not be fulfilling the royal race that you have for me. So
Mhm.
thank you, Lord, for delivering me.
Yeah.
Thank you for what I cannot see now,
Hmm.
but which will be manifested later in life. And it
Yeah.
has.
It
It
has.
has. And
Hmm.
it doesn't leave within you bitterness. It just leaves within you, oh, God is good and God is working in my life, and I can love this person from a distance,
Hmm.
not romantically. I can
Hmm.
wish well
I'm well. Hmm.
and be happy and be
Yeah.
grateful
Yeah.
for God's doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting, the piece that I heard you say with, writing the promises of God on the mirror, literally with nail polish as a reminder. When you say that, I find myself reflecting because from a kind of a therapy standpoint, one of the things that, people will constantly tell you if you're struggling with things like self-esteem, self-worth, value for self, they'll say, affirm yourself, positive affirmations. And when you say that, again, it's kind of, I like when these things happen because sometimes I think when people think of therapy, they think of it as separate from what God is saying. But really and truly, God been talking about positive affirmations a long time ago. and when I,
Absolutely.
and when I hear you say that, that's what I hear. I hear that part of our process in learning how to use gratitude as a part of our healing process is learning how to affirm ourselves with the words of our Creator, remind ourselves of the things that are true that don't line up with the untruths that we sometimes tell ourselves when we're going through challenging moments. And I think the piece I would add there is the reminder that it's a challenging moment, not a challenging life. And I think that's where gratitude really comes back in and reminds us, just like you said, what are all of the other ways and times that I've got to be grateful for? I remember saying to somebody one day, they were going through a challenging experience, and we said, "You've made it through 100% of all the challenges that you faced before now. You're still here, just like you said. So if that's not something to be grateful for, I don't know what is." So I'm really loving this. I'm loving this kind of talking through this experience of how gratitude can really infuse our experiences and really help us to have a more fulfilling life. So you've talked a little bit about one challenging area. What's something else that you feel like is a relatable challenge that other people have been through that you've experienced, where gratitude has really played a role in helping you to manage that healing journey?
Yes. I shared earlier that there were times when I felt in childhood, and I'll transition that into adulthood, when I felt like that feeling of inferiority when you don't when you have less
Mm-hmm.
than others.
Yeah.
And even though I'm a fourth generation Christian, you would have
Mm-hmm.
to say, in I didn't quite come to know Christ until my journey started. My journey to Canada and in Canada
Mm-hmm.
started where, okay, yes, I know God, I know all the theories about God, but God being with me and for me and walking along with me is live and well through these experiences. And one of the big things was when we were living in Canada, when we had been living in Canada for, so we got here in September. By the end of October, all our money was done. And
Mm.
we came here with a 1 year old and a three
Mm.
year old.
Mm.
The wonderful people told me, that I didn't get a scholarship because when you study in Cuba and those places, your grades are converted to university standards, and my grades were not good enough. And I remember just crying uncontrollably in a little dingy bathroom stall somewhere on that campus and say, God, first of all, I'm not from Canada. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
from Cuba, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And this this disdain in which I was spoken with did affect that inferiority
Mm-hmm.
complex,
Mm-hmm.
right? This fact that I know I'm qualified for this scholarship and I haven't even been nominated for it
Mm-hmm.
because of somebody's misconceptions of who I am.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
fact that we come thinking that we're prepared for a whole year and the daycare charges
Mm.
are through the roof, and
Yeah.
all your money is done and you're heading into the winter.
Mm.
What do you do during this time
Yeah.
with your babies? You have babies to feed, you have babies
Mm-hmm.
to who need diaper, who need proper nutrients, and you
Yeah.
need to have a positive mindset to be able to study. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you manage this? How do you manage the situation where you have no control? I have no control. I have 20 hours per week on a study permit. I can't go look a job off
Mm-hmm.
campus at this point. I don't know much, right? It's September and it's the end of October. So
Yeah.
what will happen to us, Lord? How
Mm-hmm.
can you help me through? Help me not to fall further into the doldrums of despair.
Yeah. So here we
And
are in this bathroom stall. Where do we go from here having this conversation with God?
where do we go from here? You go home and you throw yourself on your husband and you cry and you're comforted of the Lord. You're
Mm.
comforted of the Lord, and the Lord says, you're not alone. Keep walking. At least your fees for this term are paid. So just go to
Mm-hmm.
school. That's why you came. Go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And and every day how this journey of gratitude came to a head
Mm-hmm.
was during this time. I decided to be vulnerable. And so I would
Mm-hmm.
share little testimonies to help me overcome my constant need to worry.
Mm-hmm.
And these testimonies were a reminder of God's continuous blessings and grace when I would get anxious and stressed.
Yeah.
And I found that the testimonies were getting more and more and more frequent, and I was forgetting the stresses, right?
Mm.
So the big thank you moment came when this one, Kamal, I think I just
Yeah.
have to share the story for you.
Yes.
So, like I said, the money ran out at the end of October,
Mm-hmm.
right? Had a little bit of change and avoided going to the supermarket. But one Friday, I was I was applying for a bursary, and I couldn't find the office, and I ended up in another office. And while I was in the office, I decided that I was going to ask them about my substandard average, my secret substandard average. And the
Mm-hmm.
lady was shocked to hear that I had had such an experience.
Mm.
And so that lady turned out, it happened to be the office of the Dean of Graduate Studies, where I had got lost looking for the office of some student finance or something. So up to
Yeah.
this day, I haven't found, yeah, I didn't find the office until after that day,
Man.
after that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I spoke to her, and she told me, she took my name, she took my transcript and everything. And when I showed her my transcript, she said, "This is ridiculous." And she sent it off to the international grades expert.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that, Yeah, I did qualify for the scholarship.
Mm.
So fast forward now, I am
Yeah.
leaving that office. I'm feeling good. I finally find the bursary office, and when I went to drop off the application, they told me, we don't need it. You already sent it electronically. So God allowed me to get lost to end up in this office where I
Mm-hmm.
really needed to be.
Yeah.
But on my way home, I was singing day by day and with each passing moment. And when I turned a corner, I met upon one of the graduate fellows of my supervisor,
Mm-hmm.
and she asked me, Tamara, why do you look so down? I look down. Like, what are you talking about? Right? She's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm singing in my heart. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. And she's asking me why I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if I'm worried about my midterm exam, which I just knew I hadn't done well. I hadn't had any confirmation that I hadn't done well. But
Mm-hmm.
when she said that, no, I don't know. I was happy and I was
Mm-hmm.
blessed. And then she said that, and my tears started to flow. And
Oh
Kamala,
man.
those tears were flowing, and I was saying to myself, Tamara, stop it crying. You're
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing. Didn't you just have a miraculous experience around there?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
tears would not stop. They just kept flowing and flowing and flowing and
Yeah.
flowing and flowing. And the poor lady,
Yeah.
she she managed to tap me, to pat me on the back in consolation. And as soon
Mm-hmm.
as she turned her back, my tears dried up, and I continued on my walk home, singing day by day, and it was the weirdest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So the next week, I had to pick up a letter from my advisor because I had asked him for support for that bursary that I
Right.
was applying for. And I'd been on the road all day and I didn't check my messages. So when I went to pick up this letter for the bursary, I saw it in the foyer and I decided that, of course, I can't just take up the letter and leave. I have to go and tell the man, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I pushed my head in the door. And when I pushed my head in the door, the man looked grim and told me to come in and have a seat.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said that, I got scared now and thought, oh my God, I did so poorly
Oh
on my,
no, some.
of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Negative thoughts. I did so poorly on
Mm-hmm.
my midterm that he's going to tell me that there's no way I can continue in this PhD program and I have to go home. So I'm there
Mm-hmm.
apprehensive. So he told me, have a seat. And then he says to me, Tamara, if things were done well from the beginning, you should have got a scholarship. And he handed me a letter, a different letter. And when I read the letter, it was it was for a scholarship.
Oh my goodness.
A scholarship that would just pay it because I had already paid my fees for this term. It
Mm-hmm.
was just to take care of our family. Now I truly burst out crying because really,
Yes.
as part of that all day being on the road was going to the supermarket. We don't have credit, so it's cash. And
Mm-hmm.
when I looked, it must have been some cents that were left in the account. And I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling so despondent, right?
Yeah.
And worried. And here I was in this man's office. He had
Yeah.
given me a letter that
Yeah.
outlined the scholarship. And so I said, so what do I need to do? Am I a graduate assistant? What do I need to do? He says, just come to school 40 hours per week, do your studies, and that's it.
Oh
That's
my
it.
goodness. Just like that.
And so, yes, just like that. And so I penned that one, and then I had to pen another. And the big one now is yes, you have two babies, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't have credit, so you're depending on cash.
Mm-hmm.
They're costly,
Mm-hmm.
diapers, right? Fruits and vegetables, right? You want to give them good nutrition. These
Mm-hmm.
are costly. It's not like Jamaica where you can go around to grandma and you pick something off her tree and you make a puree or whatever,
Right.
right? You have to buy every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this day, it's winter. I'm feeling despondent because I'm anxious, right? This anxiety thing is getting control of me, and I'm not driving the car because I'm afraid. So I'm taking the
Mm-hmm.
bus and I'm going to the food bank. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm dressed all right, but when I'm coming from the food bank now, the wind is
Mm-hmm.
so harsh
Mm-hmm.
and the bags are heavy and I'm walking and I can't find my way and the bags are tearing into my hand.
Mm.
I have brothers, man. I don't walk with no heavy bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
used to this kind of
Yes.
lifestyle, right?
Yes.
So as the last girl, I'm kind of spoiled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking with this bag and it's cold and I'm lost, directionally challenged. I can
Mm-hmm.
never, anywhere I go, I get lost. I can't find my way. I don't go anywhere alone. I don't drive this car because I get lost and I get flustered. And so I'm walking with the bag, chop off all my hair,
Mm-hmm.
because really, who is going to be going to the hairdresser when you're poor? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling despondent. I'm lost. I can't find my
Yeah.
way. And I am trying to find the bus stop. It's so cold. My fingers are burning and my toes are burning, and I just feel sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I drop the bags and I start to cry. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
Lord, what have I done? What have I
Mm-hmm.
done? You know, I leave my
Yeah.
nice country and I come now and I am now counted, counted among the poor, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
feeling any humility and not
Mm-hmm.
not learning the lessons that God have for me. And then the thought struck me because the hair, like I said, it's so dry. So my hair spiky, and look crazy. And then I'm in these frumpy clothes, and I said to myself, boy, Tammy girl, if folks at NCU should see you now, they would say Mrs. Richards has gone stark, staring mad.
Oh
You see, when the
man.
thought run through my head,
Mm-hmm.
I burst out laughing
Mm-hmm.
because it's true, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad. So I found the humor in the situation,
Yeah.
right? And I began to say, thank you, God. I have the opportunity to be
Mm-hmm.
here. I have the opportunity to be able to have food. The bags are so heavy. That's a good thing, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
food. And then I look up and the sun is so bright. And I see a glimpse of God and I say, one day I'll
Yeah.
remember this experience and celebrate how far I've come. And then I
Mm.
look across the street. It's the bus stop. So all
Right.
I had to do was cross the street and
Yeah.
find my way home.
Yeah.
And I just gave you two stories. That is not even the iceberg of the challenges. But
Mm-hmm.
it's to show you that there is reason for gratitude. And sometimes God brings you to your knees, right? We're going
Yes.
through this journey of life so that we can be saved.
Yes.
And God brings you to your knees because there is something in your character
Mm-hmm.
that He wants to purify.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tamara thinking, look who I've become is not the
Mm-hmm.
Tamara that God wants or that is going to go into God's kingdom. So
Mm-hmm.
these trials are lessons in humility to
Mm-hmm.
draw us closer to God. And so the importance of cultivating that spirit of gratitude is to know who walks with you, is to know who provides for you, is to know
Mm-hmm.
who brings you through, who gives you wholeness of mind, who
Mm-hmm.
gives you healing, right? These experiences
Yeah.
are for your healing and for your
Yeah.
purification so that you can
Mm-hmm.
be more like Him. And
Yeah.
again, so you can be a blessing to others and help them on their journey because you
Yes.
would have walked through it. So
Yeah.
like these are some of the chronicles of
Mm-hmm.
my grateful heart.
Mm. You know, as you were telling us the stories of what happened in that experience, both with the bursary and all of those people that you interacted with, I couldn't help but hear in that one of the ways that God impacted you was in a way that probably your younger self may not have wanted to experience, which is having to be vulnerable and having to say, hey, I need this, or here's what's happening for me. And I think so many of us struggle with that, being able to open up and to sometimes admit where, gosh, I don't know what the answer is here. And I need someone else to open up. And sometimes when we do that, not to say that God can't work in all kinds of ways, but sometimes that's the way that God uses to bring us to what we need to bring us to wholeness of life, if you will, you know. But sometimes we rob ourselves of those experiences because we're so afraid so afraid to be open. Stacy, I see you there. I see you there. So so we rob ourselves sometimes of these experiences. And then the other thing that I noted, it was interesting, when you said you went to pick up that letter, and what prompted that follow-up conversation about what should have happened for you, and subsequently learning that everything was covered, was you decided to take that extra step to express gratitude to somebody else. And in that expression, you learned even more about what was going to be coming your way. And you got to have that experience, having already had a tough day of wondering what was going to happen next. I love how you've talked about this. We've got a good question in here, and I see you there, Hilbert Glenn. Yes, Stacy is asking, why are we so afraid? Is it that people make us feel less than by being open and vulnerable? What do you think?
I have an answer. I think because vulnerability is not something that I grew up with. I'm from a prominent family in
Mm,
the community. And so there's this there's this image
yes.
that we portray, or you never tell anybody that you didn't have much to eat
Mm-hmm.
last night, or that you get the circular for
Mm-hmm.
owing the fees, or
Mm-hmm.
that you have to go and line up at student finance
Oh
for
yes.
college,
Mm-hmm.
or that you're going to the Value Village to
Mm-hmm.
purchase clothing for you and your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have this image two ways. We have this image that people who are prominent, they never go through hardships,
Yes.
right? And
What a
that
lie
image
that is.
has to be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
One. And two, people who are Christians must be having good experiences all the time. And if
Mm,
you share your bad experiences, then you are not glorifying God.
mm,
Those are myths and lies of the devil, because the Bible itself tells us that we go through tribulations, and in sharing those tribulations, we're able to comfort those who are going through similar challenges. So
mm-hmm.
it's very hard for me to be vulnerable. It's very difficult, but I find that what I found, and the reason I ended up publishing these books, was
Mm-hmm.
because when I would share those little stories for my own encouragement, post on my Facebook page so I could go back and read,
Mm-hmm.
people would be blessed. And if I disappeared for a month, which I did one of the times when I was just too down,
Mm-hmm.
people would be saying, Tamara, I miss your stories. I miss, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? So this vulnerability, this not wanting to be vulnerable is one of the deadly sins. It's
Mm.
pride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's pride.
Yeah.
So we're not going to share that we're facing less than ideal circumstances because we want to maintain a certain image.
Yeah.
That is not a true image of what
Yeah.
we're going through. So then it's what? It's a lie,
Mm-hmm.
right?
A lie that we have to maintain.
A lie that we have to maintain. And so you end up in further debt because what? You have to go now to New York and Company maybe to get a dress. Because if you go to the Valley Village, there's a new one there, from New York and Company that God put down for you, but you don't know because
Mm-hmm.
you dare not be
Yes.
seen in that place.
Yes.
Kamala, there came a time where I had to be giving away some of the things that I would have collected from the food bank
Mm-hmm. Mm.
because the blessings were just too
So
much.
much. Yes.
And I'm giving away the things because to people who refused to go to the food bank because Jamaicans don't have that culture of vulnerability, and we want to portray that image. That's not true. And I could tell you stories of how grateful I was, and how many new
Mm-hmm.
outfits I
Mm-hmm.
would have found for myself and my children
Mm-hmm.
in that value village. God
Of course.
provides.
Of course.
And when you cultivate a spirit of gratitude and you're sharing his
Mm-hmm.
glory and his grace with others, it thrills his heart and he gives you more blessings to be able to share with others.
Yes. Yeah. Listen, this has been such, I hate to use the same words, but I find so many of the stories that we share for this very reason, vulnerability, to be so inspiring. Because at the end of the day, what I hear you saying is that being able to be vulnerable, being able to acknowledge that you can be grateful in all things, you have seen the outcome and the outpouring of God's blessings on you. And I think an important thing to also say here is, you know, even if we weren't in a place of outpouring yet, having that mindset, that spirit of gratitude helps us to be able to manage those challenging situations and circumstances. Because like you said earlier, it takes the focus away from me and puts the focus back on God. And I really love that. We had a couple of comments while we were here chatting, really kind of digging into what you said about the self-deception that we engage in. Stacy said, so ultimately we're liars. We lie to ourselves and to the world. It's time for us to wake up and speak truth. Hilbert Glenn, we're living a lie. And it's so important that we acknowledge that. It's so important that as we are recognizing that this is what we're doing, we, to use your word, Tamara, intentionally go about the business of cultivating gratitude. I love it. We are just about out of time. Final words from you, ma'am. Dr. Richards, what do you want to leave with the people who are watching tonight, the people who are going to watch 10 months from now? What's something that you want to share to close it up?
I want to say quickly a few things. There's no shame in struggle.
Yes.
There's no shame in struggle because struggle purifies us and struggle helps us to remember where we're coming from. And if you are going to be great, your struggles are going to be greater
Mm.
because you have to spend time being built, honing those muscles. So when you reach to the mountaintop,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about you. It's not about you when you're going through the struggles, and it's not about you when you've overcome the struggles. It's
Mm-hmm.
about God.
Yeah.
And therefore, God deserves the highest praise. No matter where you reach in life, Let us not ever forget to glorify God. All that we are and ever hope to be is built upon God, upon God's grace, and He deserves the highest praise.
Amen. Amen. I see that in the comments as well. Tamara, this has been such an uplifting experience with you tonight. We don't want to go away without giving somebody on here the opportunity, two people here, the opportunity to win your book. And we are going to go ahead and spin that wheel now. Thank you for those of you who commented, shared, liked. Highest Praise, Chronicles of a Grateful Heart. This is Dr. Richards' book. It's a 3-part series available on Amazon. If you don't win one of those 2 copies tonight, do not hesitate about jumping on Amazon so you can win it too. Our first winner, Rosabelle Martin. Oh my goodness. She was our first one on. Rosabelle, you are our first winner. Who is our second one? Let's see. We're spinning our wheel again. All right. Drum roll, please. Who gets the second copy? Oh, Rosabelle, you can't win it twice. We're going to have to spin the wheel again. All right. Highest Praise, Chronicles of a Grateful Heart. Now, if you win, for our winners tonight, just a reminder, Stacey James, you got it. Stacey James Edward, I saw it in the chat. She said, I want it. Well, you got it. So as a reminder, to claim your prize tonight, you want to go to www.kwministries.net/claim your prize. It's right there at the bottom of your screen. Put in your information so we can send you this amazing book by Dr. Tamara Richards, Highest Praise, Chronicles of a Grateful Heart. Remember, this is a 3-part series. So if you get the first part today, you might want to check out the rest. Dr. Richards, it's been wonderful having you tonight. We appreciate your time. We could go on and on. I know we could dig more into this, and hopefully one day we will. Maybe a part 2 is up.
Thank you so much for your time, Kamala. It was great being here.
Great to have you. Good night, everybody.